Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be bringing you another exciting Zwift race. One of the races from my archives. I guess you could say it's my archive. I did this race back in July of 2022, and it's a crit race of the Bell Lap in Watopia. For all of you who are not familiar what a crit race is or criterium, it normally takes place on a closed course around a circuit of laps that are short in length. This particular course is right around about 2K. And this is actually one of my earlier ACAT crit races that I did after moving up from Category B. I enjoy doing crit races. If you ever want to kind of move up in category based off your watts per kilogram, crit races are the perfect races to do, especially if they're like in 20 minutes in length, at least 20 minutes, because they're normally fast paced and you're on the gas pretty much for the whole entire time. That's why I enjoy doing them. They actually helped me to move up from category B to category A much faster than doing the longer races where you may spend a lot of time where you're not going as fast because you're either drafting or just hanging back in the back of the pack trying to save energy. But in crit races, you're on the gas pretty much from go. So you're kind of guaranteed to get a higher watts per kilogram in your overall average at the end of a race. But this particular race was one of my first races after coming from Cat B that I felt like I always had a chance of winning. This particular race took place around about 5 p.m. on a Saturday, and there wasn't a lot of people in it, especially in Cat A. In Cat B, there is always a larger group of riders in Cat B. So I kind of did a lot of Cat B racing in criteriums when I was at that level. But once I moved up to A, there were times where they weren't as many riders in it, but I enjoyed doing them so much that regardless of how many riders, I was going to participate. So in this particular race, the group as a start was about 5 of us. Eventually one guy kind of got dropped and then he just didn't finish the race, so he dropped right out. But it was fun in the beginning. For the most part, we were all pretty much at the same level. There weren't a whole lot of attacks or anything like that, but there were times where I kind of fell off the pace and had to put in a dig to get back up to with the group. But in this particular crit, there were power-ups available to us, and there were only 3. There was either a ghost, an anvil, or a draft boost. And I was hoping to get a draft boost to kind of like save it to the end to use in the sprint. But as we went along, that kind of didn't work out. For the most part, I don't know why they have an anvil in this crit. An anvil, if you're not familiar with it, what it does is it increases your weight. And it's mainly used when you're going down a descent. That once you have that extra weight, it allows you to go down the descent faster. But in this particular crit race, or in this particular course, the only descent that has any length to it is the cobble descent, and it's really not long enough for you to use the anvil on it effectively, because you're through that descent so quick that the anvil is still going while you're off and on the flats. And that's kind of a detriment when you're out there on the flats and you have to pedal and you still have that anvil power up going. And you'll actually see that because I will play it on. I will use it on this upcoming descent of the cobble. Now on this course, there's actually in this direction that we're going now. It's called the Bell Lap, and if you're going the opposite direction, they call it Downtown Dolphin. Why the two names are there, I don't know, but you can see I got off the power and I'm using the anvil, and we're about to get to the bottom of that descent, and there's just a little bit more descent after that, and then we're off to the flats. And as you can see, I still have almost a third of the anvil power up still going. So it's kind of a useless power up on this particular course. I don't know why I have it. And each time you do a lap, you get a new power up, and you'll see what power I get on the next one. As you can see, I've kind of like fallen off the place because of that anvil. It was still going and people got out ahead of me, so I had to put in a dig just to get back with the group. But I was holding out hope that I would get a draft power up. I thought that was going to be the most valuable power up to me in this race because I'm a good sprinter, and if you give me the opportunity to sit off the back to use your draft, I'm going to take advantage of that. So here we go. We're about to get another power up, and I get the Ghost power up. Ghost power up can be a little effective if used properly, but it's still kind of a wasted power up to me. There's no power advantage in this power up. The only advantage in this particular Ghost power up is deception, where you can go into Ghost mode and then jump on the gas and power up and get a gap on the group that you're fighting against or racing against. But with so few people, you can see that the other guy has lost the draft from us, so it's really just 4 of us now. That Ghost power up, even used now, doesn't get you a lot. It may get you a couple of seconds lead if you put in enough power, but then in this scenario where there's only 4 of us out there, then it's kind of 3 against 1 for them to kind of catch back up to me. So in this case, I feel like the Ghost and the anvil are kind of useless, but I'm going to try and use them as best I can. Now this is the cobble, I guess you can call it the cobble descent in this direction. And you may notice that each time I hit this descent, I get off the gas and I let the bike coast. I let it coast. What I'm doing there is I'm giving my legs a break from pedaling. Now this particular race has 8 laps, so if I do that 8 times, that's some relief for me from not pedaling during that instance, because pretty much everywhere else I'm pedaling my heart out. I'm pedaling anywhere from between at a cadence of 85 to 95 revolutions per minute. So taking that time to get that break, even though it's very short, it's extremely short, it's only maybe a second or 2, that's a second or 2 that I'm allowing my legs just to recover that little bit, and it helps. It honestly helps in a race like this, especially when you're on the gas so much. So here's me using this Ghost power up. I'm just trying to get rid of it because I'm going through the arch, and each time you go through the arch you get a new power up, and I was hoping to get a draft boost, and I got another anvil. At this point I'm getting a little frustrated with this anvil thing. There's a way for you to toss a power up. There's a quick key or keys that you can press on the keyboard to toss a power up, and I completely forgot how to do it. So at this point, I have to use it, because if I don't use it, I don't get a new one when I go through the arch again. So I have to use it. So the next time I get to the cobble descent, I'm going to try and use it a little earlier before I get to the descent, to have most of it gone before I get back to the flats, because I don't need the extra weight. Well, in some degrees, I do need the extra weight because I'm a light rider, and because I'm light, anytime there's a descent, the riders that are much heavier than me have that advantage over me on descents. But in this case, this is so short that I really don't need it. I really don't need it. I'd rather not have the anvil at all. I'd go through there with nothing than this anvil. And here we go again. It's still going. It lasts for like 30 seconds, so it's fairly long. And here I am out on the flats with this extra weight that slows me down, makes me have to put in more effort on this flat than I would have had I not used that anvil. There's the section where there's rollers, where it goes up and down and up and down. I've seen people use the anvil in that case, and that doesn't make sense, because it helps you when you're going on the decline, but then it hurts you on the ascent. So I would never use that anvil in that section at all. I was in a crit race, I believe it was a B crit race, where I saw somebody use that anvil, and I actually chatted out to them and left a message telling them not to use that anvil in that section. It hurts you more than it helps you. And then we were talking about, it was the same course, the bell lap, and we were somebody said to use it on that cobble descent, and I was like, yeah, but it's really not going to do you much good, because it's so quick. It's not going to do you a whole lot of good there either. You'd be better off just dumping it. So you can see that after using that anvil, I picked up another power up, and it's another ghost. Don't want ghost either. That's another useless one to me. It's because it doesn't give me any power advantage. I'd rather have a power advantage. So if I'm using a boost, a draft boost, that actually kind of gives me a power increase, whereas this ghost doesn't. It's just deception. And you can see that there's only showing 3 of us now. That's because one of the other guys has used the ghost, and there he is. He popped up right in front of us, not that far ahead of us. He's got a little bit of gap on us, but it's not a whole lot. So it doesn't really, unless you really hit the power when you use that ghost and gain a big distance, that short distance, the 3 of us, we're just going to whittle that down fairly fast because of the draft effect. And the draft effect from 3 riders versus 1 is going to be much greater. So we will close on that person that's out front fairly quickly. And as you can see, we've moved right back up on it. You can also see, based on looking at my graph, that for the most part, we are always on the power. There is that little bit of time, like going down the cobble descent for me, where I will get off the gas and let the bike coast until I get back on the gas and then get back into my groove. But in this case, where it's like off and on, off and on, off and on as far as the power. You can see that I've changed the view to get a more compact view or pictorial view of the bikers, of us riding through this course. And that's actually going to hurt me in this race. And I didn't realize it until after the fact, or after I reviewed this. So see how I went back to that backwards view? I got to the arch so quick that I forgot to get rid of that ghost before I went through that arch. So now that opportunity to get a new power up is gone because I didn't play it before I got to that arch. Had I played it before I got to that arch, I would have gotten rid of that ghost. And who knows, I could have got another ghost, I could have got another anvil, but I could have gotten a draft boost. So now I have to wait to play this ghost again at some point before I get to the arch again. Right now we're on lap 6, so that means I will have 2 more chances to get a power up, and we'll see what happens. I'm not sure what happened here, but I kind of like fell off the place. I'm not sure what I was thinking about, and I let myself fall backwards behind the group a little bit, so I had to put in a dig. Just a small dig, but a dig nonetheless to get back onto the group. And then I played the ghost, and you'll see that the combination of me blowing by them and using my ghost is going to get me about a second, maybe 2 seconds ahead of them. And for me, it's not like I'm going to try and do a breakaway at this point. We still have another whole 2.5 laps. So at this point, I'm just going to ride my normal speed. I'm not trying to go really fast. And I'm just going to let them eventually come back up to me so that we can all ride as a group again. I mean, I was using the ghost just to get rid of it. I wasn't using the ghost to try a tactic to try and do a breakaway. At least at this point, I wasn't trying to do anything. You can see that the other guy has used his ghost, and he's way up ahead of us. So he hit the gas when he used his ghost. So he materialized way up ahead of us. And it was just more or less about 2 seconds. And same way as before, the 3 of us are more efficient than him by himself. And we're all pushing around about 4.5 to 5 watts all the time through this race. So he would have had to put on some serious power to get away from the 3 of us. And that's just burning matches big time before you get to what would be the sprint. So I used my ghost and hoping I was going to get a draft pack power up, and I got another anvil. And I'm frustrated now. I'm like, what is going on with these power ups? Why can't I get a draft boost? I was desperate for that draft boost in this race, because I knew that it was going to come down to a sprint, because we were all fast. All 4 of us were fast, so it wasn't like we were getting away from each other or doing anything that caused anybody to seem like, it didn't seem like anybody was yo-yoing back and forth, that like they were falling off the back and then have to hit a lot of power to catch back up, and then they come to the front and then fall off the back again. It seemed like we were all kind of taking turns going up front. And you can see here where somebody used a ghost again, but he wasn't going anywhere. He popped up right behind us. He was just using his ghost to get rid of it, to try and get a better power up. So you saw the guy in the red, the draft guy, you saw him kind of take off because he wasn't sure if when that guy went ghost that he was taking off. So now I'm using my anvil again. I am on this little cobbled descent, and again I'm coasting. You can see my power drop down to about 14 watts. Then I get back on the watts to get back up to speed. And again, I'm just saving my legs, resting my legs for those split seconds. Even though it's maybe 1 or 2 seconds, that's all valuable to me, especially when you're riding as hard as we're riding. So now we're coming together again. I'm looking up and I'm going to cross. I have one more arch to go through, and I'm praying and hoping that I'm going to get a draft boost. That's the only thing that I'm looking forward to right now. And I'm not sure if it's going to come. I've already decided how far I'm going to sprint. I've decided that I'm going to sprint 400 meters. I know exactly where the 400 meters mark is. This mark right here, that's 300 meters. I'm not going from that mark or that turn. There's another mark that's right back behind that. That's the 400 meter mark. It doesn't say 400 meters. I just know where the 400 meter mark is because I raced so much on this course. Now, for the longest time, I could only do 300 meters or less, but now I'm up to 400 meters. So now I'm getting my power up. It's going, and I got another freaking ghost. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want this ghost. No, you're killing my race. Now I know I have to try and use this ghost to my advantage. I still know I want to go at 400 meters, and I have this ghost. So I'm going to try and use it the way it's meant to be used and have a little bit of deception. And right at that 400 meter mark, I'm going to use that ghost, and then I'm going to hit the gas and see if I can catch them off guard and pull away from them. So that's my plan. That's my plan right now, is to kind of lay off from and come from the back. I don't want to be out front when I use the ghost. I want to be behind them and use the ghost and hopefully catch them off guard because they won't see me blink away if I'm behind them. If I'm ahead of them, they will see me blink away, and that might clue them to hit the gas. So I'm hoping to stay just slightly behind them before I use the ghost. So we're getting close to the end. We have about 1K left to go, and I know exactly what it is I want to do. I'm going to take advantage of my coast here. You'll see my wattage go down, 49, coasting it out, let my legs recover for those split seconds, and then I will get right back on the gas. I know where I need to start pedaling at for me to get back on the gas at the end of that little descent. And now I'm kind of like in the middle, but I know I want to do this from behind. So I just back off just slightly, just enough for myself to get rolled to the back. And that part worked out perfectly. Not too much off the gas and not too much on. I'm at 0.6K. I know I'm going to go at 0.4K, and it's coming up. You'll actually see that the line. This is the line right up here before this left-hand turn is 400 meters. And then, bam, hit the ghost, and I go. I didn't know it, but that guy in the red, the draft guy, was reading me, and he hit the gas too. So he was going, and I knew I had much more power than these guys. And then I went power. I hit my power band and went right by him. Unfortunately, he had a draft boost. And once I went by him and that draft moved him behind me, it gave him just enough to go right back around me and win the race, and I came in second. I was like, oh my goodness. How did that happen? There was no way I was supposed to lose that race. I was pushing way much more power than he was. But because he had that draft boost, it allowed him to get by me. Now, had I gone a little bit earlier, I don't know if I'd have got a bigger gap or not. You could see him saying, holy S, it took a serious dig to win that race. And this is the part that I like about most of the races that I do. When the guys stick around after the event and they start chatting and they start going back and seeing, giving kudos and all that stuff. I love this part. I love doing that. It's that camaraderie that you get from people that are all over the world that do that. In some races, it's just done and nobody says anything, and then I'll just do some spinning to spin the lactic acid out of my legs, and then I'll go and then back off. But in this case, we were chatting up a storm here because we all thought that was a very good race, and it was. It was. I mean, I got beat because of a power up. I know had he not had that power up, that he would not been able to catch me. I would have been able to power. Once I went by him, I would have kept going by him and finished that race. But it is what it is. It's what I enjoy about Zwift. It's the competition. I love the competition, and it's just it's fun for me. I mean, at the end of that race, I was huffing and puffing like crazy. I was sweating. My heart rate was through the roof, and my chest was beating, and I was trying to grab my breath, and the whole 9 yards. Just from that sprint. And that was a fairly long sprint. 400 meters at full gas is nothing to sneeze at. I mean, at this point now, it's January of 2023. I know I've done 600-meter sprints, which is just insane. But I could do a 600-meter sprint. I'm going to try and do longer sprints. That's going to take some more training. But a 600-meter sprint in an ACAT race is phenomenal if you can do that. And it's not so much as doing the sprint, it's being able to hold your power, being able to generate good watts to get yourself going, and to hold it and sustain it through that whole period. If you're just going to taper off and fall off towards the end, the better guys, they're going to catch you and they're going to go by you, which, a lot of time tends to be me, going past guys whose power eventually fall off. And I got to hand it to that draft guy. He stayed in his power, even though it was lower than mine. He stayed in the sprint, in the power for that whole distance of 400 meters. He could have fallen off like the other two guys that, we left and went by, because it was just him and I towards the end. He could have fallen off just like them. There was one other guy that I saw get into the sprint and looked like he was going to try and contend with us, but he fell off a lot sooner than we did and wasn't able to be part of that the last two of us going across the arch. He came across a little bit later. So, but this race was fun. It was awesome. I loved it. This is actually one of my favorites. When I go and watch my older videos, this is always one of the videos that I will watch and rehash and remind myself of how I did things and how I got to where I am now today. We got some more videos that'll be coming of some even higher power sprints that I've gotten to a point to where I'm not going to say I'm the top sprinter out there. Nobody can say that they're the top sprinter out there. There's always somebody out there that'll beat you. It depends. A lot of times it depends on luck, whether or not there's power-ups in it or not. I tend to like doing races now that don't have power-ups in them, because then it becomes mano on mano and just you against the other person. You don't have to worry about just what happened here, getting beat by a power-up. And there's some really big sprinters out there. I've been involved in a sprint series. Well, it's not really a series. It's just a race that happens every Sunday. That's a sprint race. It's a really short race, fast start, and an even faster finish, where there's two guys in it that have beat me every time. But in the last one, I was only like a second off. No, a half a second off from the winner. So I know I'm getting closer on that. But that one, I was at the tail end of a cold, and that cold is gone now. So now I'm 100%. So I'm actually looking forward to getting back to that race. And I don't know if you've noticed or not, but there's another race that was happening like 30 minutes after this race ended, and I wasn't going to do it because my legs were fried after this race, after this sprint. I put a lot of effort into this race. So I have a couple of guys in the chat trying to talk me into doing that second race, and I was like, I don't know, I wasn't gonna do it. And when it came down to it, I did end up doing it. It was same course, same 8 laps, same everything, except for it turned out that it was a totally different group of racers. So I think these guys here that were talking me up into racing it might have been in a B cat or a C category or something like that. Because when I went to got in the other race, you can see it pop up now. 29 minutes 55 seconds, crit race on the bell lap. That's the second race that I was going to be doing in 30 minutes, and I actually finished in what was second place in that race, but probably was more like first place, because there was what ended up being what we call a cheater in that race. And the thing is, it was a woman, and I don't even think she knew she was cheating. I think she was on one of those exercise bikes that was tied to Zwift, and not an exercise bike, but a stationary bike. And I don't think it was calibrated correctly, because she took off at the beginning of the race doing like 7 watts per kilogram for the first 5 or 6 minutes, and I'm like, we all thought, no, there's something not right about that. And she almost ended up lapping us, and that normally doesn't happen in an ACAT race with the front group as fast as we were, and to get somebody out there riding that fast. So she was riding had a little bit too much power, so there was something sketchy about it. And she actually, when I went and looked at her profile on Zwift Power, she had only been riding for I think it was 3 months, and she had gone from a C to what was showing her as an A plus in 3 months, and the crazy power surge that she all of a sudden got. So I don't think she realized. I don't think she was intending to cheat. She just didn't know that her stuff wasn't set up for her. So in that case, what are you going to do about it? Not too much you can do about it. So we're going to end this and move over to our results to see how we did here. At some point, I believe we're going to get to that. And you can see that I did for 5 seconds 1,238 watts. My best at that point in time was 1,303 watts, and that 1,303 watts had happened in a group ride. In the group ride, you're normally riding kind of slow, and you don't use up your legs as much until you get to a sprint, and then you just go all out in the sprint. So that's how I got that 1,303 in that case. It wasn't in an actual race, it was a group event. But I'm getting to the point to where I can get up close to 1,300 watts at this particular time, at this point in time, and at the end of a race. At the start, I could never get that much at the end of a race. I was lucky if I hit 800 watts at the end of a race, trying to do a sprint at the end of a race. But now that I've my fitness level has increased and all that thing, I can actually do legit sprints at the end of a race. I hope you all enjoyed this recap of one of my crit races that I enjoy to do. crit racing seems to be like a seasonal thing. It seems to, at that time during the middle of the year, there seems to be crit races all day long. But now that we're in the fall of 2023, there's not that many crit races. There's a lot more other things happening, tours and all those kind of things that are happening during what would be the winter season here in the Northeast. So thank you for watching my video. There's more to come. There's some older stuff. If you want to take a look at some of my older stuff. And I hope to see you in the next one. Have a good one. Peace.